Assalamualaikum and hi. Today I will present about Japan. Japan is a state on an island in East Asia. It is in the northwest of the Pacific Ocean and borders the Sea of Japan on the west. It stretches from the Sea of Okhotsk to the East China Sea, the Philippine Sea and Taiwan. Japan is part of the Ring of Fire. It is an archipelago of 6,852 islands that covers 145,637 square miles. The five largest islands are Hokkaido, Honshu the mainland, the Shikoku, Kyushu and Okinawa. Japan's official currency is yen, which is written and has the symbol. Its code is JPY. It is the third most traded currency on the foreign exchange market after the US dollar, and the euro. It is also often used as a third reserve currency after the US dollar and the euro. Japan's modern currency system started with the New Currency Act of 1871. The yen is worth 1.5 gram of gold or 24.26 gram of silver, and it is divided into 100 sen or 1,000 rin. The yen replaced the old Tokugawa coins and the different Hansatsu paper currency that feudal Han ruled over. The Bank of Japan was set up in 1882 and it was given the sole power to control how much money is in its circulation.
The top exports of Japan are cars, machinery and transport equipment, and integrated circuits. While the major import of Japan are crude petroleum gas, and phone devices, including smartphones.
Gordon and Roderick, 1986, said the volatility of real exchange rate can weaken the volume of international trade. The familiarity with volatility differs among the countries, and Japan have experienced more short-term volatility than European countries. Harms and Fishman 2009 state that the different type of regimes do not have considerably different effects on the growth of advanced economy. In contrast, the real exchange rate and economic growth have normally had a positive relationship in developing countries. Namjo 2014 revealed that inflation rate have been different effects on exchange rates in a different country's economy with a different economic system. An increase in the value of the home country is due to higher imports to other trading countries.
Inflation rate in Japan is moderate. Somehow, from 1982 to 2021, Japan reached a negative and high inflation rate. Japan's lost decade was a period that lasted from about 1991, when its once brisk economy experienced a major decline. The Bank of Japan's BOJ decision to raise interest rates to calm the real estate market contributed to the economic downturn. From 2018 to 2021, Japan again showed a decreasing inflation rate pattern until it reached negative 0.2 in 2021. Japan is facing a deflation which contributes to weakness in the economy and discourages consumer spending.
For GDP growth, the highest GDP was on 1988, which is 6.8%. Meanwhile, the lowest GDP was on 2009, which is negative 5.7%. Economic growth can negatively link with positive changes in an exchange rate when it is highly financed by import, which are not contributing to the productive capacity of economy. Therefore, a highly productive economies are sometimes associated with economic stability. Hence, the improvement in Japan's economic performance can be said to give positive impact on Japanese yen.
The next influential factor is unemployment, which arises when an individual is willing and able to work but it does not have a paid job. As we can see, the unemployment rate was 2.40% in 1982, but it decreased into its lowest percentage among 40 years in 1990 and 1991, which 2.10%. Generally, investors may seek investment opportunities in Japan when low unemployment rate and causing a rise in the Japanese currency. However, it increased until it reached the highest percentage among 40 years in 2002 with the 5.39%, which is causing investors to seek opportunities somewhere else, and so the currency may depreciate.
Implications are that if Japanese is to achieve a high and stable value against others' exchange rate, the Japanese government must reduce its use of broad money due to the negative relationship between broad money and the Japanese exchange rate. This will be reinforced by encouraging financial sector development and increasing the economy in order to lower broad money and allow the exchange rate to rise.
For descriptive statistic, the minimum number is negative 5.6932 under GDP growth, while the maximum was affected by the broad money, which is 281.2991. Broad money also has the highest mean and standard deviation.
Now we move to the correlation analysis. The correlation is a statistical measure of the strength of the relationship between the relative movements of two variables. The correlation between the inflation and exchange rate is 566, which refer to a positive correlation. The correlation between the GDP and exchange rate is 465, also a positive correlation. This means that as the inflation and GDP increase, the value of exchange rate in Japanese yen will be increased. The correlation for unemployment is negative 454 and broad money is negative 684. This shows a negative correlation between the exchange rate, which means that as the unemployment and broad money increase, the value of exchange rate in Japanese yen will decrease.
According to analysis for Japan, the value of R square is 0.578. This means that approximately 57.8% of the exchange rate for Japanese yen was explained by inflation, gross domestic product, unemployment, and broad money factor. Next, the adjustment R square value is 0.529. It represents 52.9% in exchange rate of Japanese yen. The dependence variable is likely explained by also the same factor, which are inflation, gross domestic product, unemployment, and also broad money. Secondly, for the coefficients, we can examine them using the significant level of 0.05. If the significant level is greater than 0.05, the null hypothesis must be rejected. If the significant level is less than 0.05, however, the null hypothesis is accepted. According to the analysis, as the p-value is greater than the significant level of 0.05, the result indicates that the inflation, gross domestic product, and unemployment hypotheses are not supported, possibly requiring the rejection of the null hypothesis. However, as for the broad money, the p-value is less than 0.05, resulting in the supporting of null hypothesis, which is the null hypothesis is accepted. Lastly, as for the ANOVA, the p-value for F test is equal to 0.01, which means it is less than the level of significance, which is 0.05. At the end, the null hypothesis is accepted. This shows that the inflation, gross domestic product, unemployment, and broad money are all statistically significant variables in explaining the variation in the exchange rate of Japanese yen.
In conclusion, we found out inflation, broad of money, GDP, and unemployment have affected Japan's currency. Also, we discussed theoretical and empirical evidence of a positive relationship between interest rates and exchange rates in Japan to go further about Japan's currency.